So first, some definitions of some words that we've been using but probably need to define. So population, all of the organisms of a single species that live in the same area. And how do we define whether they're the same species or not? They have to be capable of mating and producing fertile offspring. That definition may change someday because now with all this technology we can get things to breed that normally wouldn't, and so usually what we're using now is DNA to test whether they're the same species or not. Okay, so let me show you some pictures of some populations. Okay, so here is a population of some sea lions. So again, all these sea lions are the same species and they all live in this similar area. Here's a population of deer, of geese, and sometimes populations get names, like a population of geese is called a gaggle, so a gaggle of geese, that's a fun one to say. A pod of whales, a school of fish, or this one's good, a murder of crows. That's the name that you do not need to know those names of the different kinds of populations, but I just thought they were kind of fun. So again, here's a population of crows, okay, because they're all the same species and they all live in the same area. Okay, population density refers to how many of the species are there living in that certain area. And there's 4 things that affect that. So births, more births is going to increase the density. Immigration would be species moving into the area, so again that would increase the density. Things that decrease the density, death, obviously if the things die the density is going to decrease, and emigration means when living things move out of the area. Okay, so how do populations grow? Again, it's going to be those 4 things: birth, immigration, emigration, and death. Okay, but what determines those is basically its community and its ecosystem. So what things limit a population's growth is where it lives and who it lives with. Okay, so again, some more vocabulary that we've been using but haven't defined. Okay, so you start off with a species, so one organism. Okay, here you have a school of fish, so that's a population, again, because they're all the same species. And then a community is when you put several different populations together. So the fish population with the duck population, with the grass population, with the rabbit population. And then the ecosystem is the community, so all those populations, plus the abiotic factors, so the sun, the wind, the water, the soil. Okay, and then the biosphere is all the living things on Earth. Okay, so there's 2 ways that populations tend to grow. One's called exponential growth and one is called logistic growth. And we're going to look at each one. Okay, so exponential growth, okay, is often called a J-shaped curve, I guess because it kind of looks like the letter J. Okay, and so what you can see here is that the number of elephants in 1900 was really, really low. Okay, mostly due to poaching, which was people killing elephants for their tusks. Okay, and then they started to make some laws against poaching, and so what happened is the number of elephants slowly started to increase. So 2 elephants made 4 elephants, 4 elephants made 8 elephants, 8 elephants made 16. And that's called exponential growth, right? So if you think of that, 2 to the 2nd power, 2 to the 3rd power, 2 to the 4th power, and slowly the elephants started to grow. And then once they started growing, they got to grow really fast. So, okay, so it starts off kind of slow, it's called the lag, and then all of a sudden, once you get to start to grow exponentially, you grow really fast after that. Okay, and that's only because there were so few elephants that there was plenty of food and plenty of space for all these elephants to grow, to have their birth rate. So here again, the birth rate would be much higher than the death rate, which allowed the elephant population to grow. Okay, now notice this graph. Okay, it has some important elements which a lot of you were missing when you made your own graphs. Okay, notice the population over here on the y-axis is labeled, and the years, this is what almost everyone did wrong on their graph that you made. You have to space the years evenly. Okay, so see the dots? Those were the numbers they had. So maybe it said in 1902 there was, maybe 20 elephants. And in 1903, but notice they didn't like plot that. They spaced it evenly. So each giant box here in the graph represented 20 years. You have to make sure you space your graphs evenly. Okay, so the second kind of graph is much more common in what we see because it shows that there's limitations on a species growth. So this kind of growth is called logistic growth. I guess maybe because it's kind of logical, okay, that as a population grows, it can grow and grow, but eventually it's going to get limited by something. Okay, so maybe there's not enough space, maybe there's not enough food, and so the population can't just keep growing forever, and it starts to level out. Okay, so if you look right here, so it's growing, 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 the population's growing, and then it starts to kind of level out. Okay, because in this graph it's showing paramecium growth. Okay, so the number of paramecium, let's say living in the pond, there's only so much space for the paramecium and only so much food. And so the population growth starts to level out. Okay, where it starts to level out, this is called the carrying capacity. So the carrying capacity is how much of the species can live in this ecosystem and be sustained. Okay, what you should also notice is the red line is like a line of best fit, but notice the little black dots. They don't follow the line exactly, okay, because when living things reproduce, it's not like they reproduce and say, oh, okay, the capacity is a 900, so stop reproducing when we reach 900. No, they're going to reproduce until there's 1,000, and then there's going to be some competition because there's not enough space and not enough food. So then some of them are going to die. So if you look, let me just see if I can get this mouse. Okay, so here there's 1,000 of them. Well, that's overcrowded, so then they start to die. And then now they're down to 800 over here, and so that means there's plenty of space, and so now they can grow more. So if you're looking at the numbers, what would you say is the carrying capacity for the paramecium population in this pond? Is about 900 paramecium. Okay. So the abiotic and biotic limiting factors are often categorized further into density dependent and density independent. Okay. What that means is density dependent means the bigger the population gets, the more those factors influence growth. So the bigger your population gets, the more food, water, shelter, disease, predation, sunlight, those factors increase their pressure on the organisms, because as the population gets bigger, there's more competition for those things. Okay, density independent, it doesn't matter how many of the organisms are living in that population, these things are going to affect it. So like things like weather and temperature. Okay, so if the temperature gets really cold, that's going to influence the, say, fox population, no matter how many foxes are living in that area. So that would be independent of the density of the population. Okay, and last but not least, okay, this is a predator-prey graph. Okay, so what you need to notice here is, first, the population size of the predator. It should be smaller, okay, than the prey. There should be, let's say, for every 100 rabbits, there's only going to be 10 wolves or something like that. So the predator population is lower in general than the prey. Okay, and so here let's just say, so from here to here, from here to here, the prey population is increasing. So there's more and more rabbits. Okay, and so what happens is then the number of wolves can increase because now there's more rabbits to eat, so there's more wolves that can survive. But what's going to happen if there's more and more wolves? It means that they're going to be eating more and more rabbits, so then the number of rabbits starts to go down. Okay, and well, now there's less and less rabbits, so there's less food for the wolves to eat, so the wolf population starts to go down. And so the cycle just keeps happening over and over again. And so this is called a predator-prey graph. Okay, again, the prey should always be higher. So if you can see here, there's way more rabbits than there are wolves, even at their maximum. And that's it.